And I think that's a huge challenge because there's this part of me that I love just being like showing up without any plans.
Mhm.
But then sometimes I think that what's expected, right? That there's some structure, some guideline so that no one's time, your time is not wasted, or we are effective or efficient, that whole thing drives the conversation um,
And
versus perhaps, yeah, just being here. Mm.
isn't it interesting how those notions of optimization, of efficiency, of wasted time, of all of that is part and parcel of industrialism, colonialism, modernity? It's the very thing we're trying to move away from,
Mm.
right? In order to be in that emergent, complex understanding and perception and to practice um, to practice that is actually to recognize that that thing you just said, which is so beautifully articulated for all of us, right? I don't want to waste your time. I don't want anybody to be bored listening to this or think, why should I listen to her if she doesn't know what she's going to talk about? But I also hope that audiences and people have an increasing demand for exactly that kind of more ecological, alive movement,
Mm.
so that we can actually get out of the pattern of everybody just repeating the same professional lines that they've been repeating, which honestly, if you keep repeating the same thing, that is not how you make change.
Mm.
So it's very interesting to hold that tension. Um,
Yeah.
and I think, this gathering is about mastery.
Yes.
Um, and there's a sort of a strange and beautiful irony to the practice of mastering being in that realm of possibility. Now, please notice I didn't call it ambiguity or the unknown or emergence, right? I didn't use those words because those words are already going to tag you in to other scripts. So,
Yeah.
how do I practice being in relationship and conversation that helps to gently and maybe with humor and certainly with intellect and with rigor and with, I mean, it has to be in this moment a great deal of sorrow and fear because if we don't feel those things right now, we're not actually able to sensitize to anything. But how to be in this type of conversation in a way that lets it move, where it's never gone before, where I'm saying things I've never said before. Because not that I haven't rehearsed, okay? So people often think with improvisation, for example, that improvisation is just some random stuff that you can
Mm.
just do willy-nilly. That
Yeah.
is absolutely not what improvisation is. In order to be in improvisation, you have to practice and practice and practice and practice so that you can be free.
Mm. Mm.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I spent my whole life preparing to be in this moment, to know that we could move in multiple directions, and I'm ready.
Great.
That's
Well,
wonderful.
we don't have that distinction looking at life from that perspective, but we are ready to dance with you.
Good.
But I think that is actually a very important observation when we talked about mastery and improvisation. A lot of people use Picasso's work where they say, oh, he just splashed some paint on the wall. What they forget is he was 25 years, many, many decades mastering the art, right?
Mhm.
And when he threw paint or did what he did, it showed up a masterpiece. Not because he threw paint on the wall, but because of his masterfulness or mastery.
Mhm.
And today, I think that we don't give much credence to this because we're so in a hurry.
Yeah.
And we tend to just want to get a dabble of everything and be smart or look smart or sound smart with everything. Yeah, so it's almost like a surface level conversation sometimes.
Here's another illustration of that. If I say to my kids, there's food in the fridge, just cook something up.
Mm.
Okay. Well, they're used to eating well because I love to cook. So they're not, there's not nothing there. But what there is decades of exploration and learning the nuance. What does that pepper have in sweetness? What is the texture of that skin on that pepper? What is the cooking time that keeps it crisp? The cooking time that lets it mush. There's what's happening with that cheese. What is it with this rice? What's happening with that type of cabbage? Not the same as the other type of cabbage or the other, or these potatoes, or this oil, or this heat. So what they don't have under their understanding of just find something in the fridge is years of exploring the way that this oil is with that heat or with these vegetables, or if you start with the protein. So that makes it seem like I can just go to the fridge and pull a few things and whip them up and it's great. And I'm cooking something that has no name and I've never cooked it before and I'll probably never cook it again, but it's not coming out of nothing.
Mm.
Right? There's deep learning, lifetime of learning under that. And so it's easy to not see that and to just see, oh, Mom, what's the recipe for this dish? The recipe is 30 years of cooking,
Yes.
right? That's the recipe. But instead, they want to know it's a quarter cup of this or 2 grams of that, or they're looking for the wrong information.
Mm.
And this is an example, I think, of where so much of our whole society and looking for solutions to very urgent questions is actually arriving at that place of what's the recipe instead of what's in the 30 years of learning. And how do we allow that 30 years of learning not to produce what it's always produced, but to produce something different? Right? So it's that thing of instead of coming in with a model, here's how you make change in community or society, you're looking at what's in the multi-generational knowing and how it can actually go places it's never gone before. So I think that's very interesting. And for me, if you're ever going to ask what my work is, I would say it's that.